Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and before I bring Greg in, I want to share with you a couple of programming notes. This week is the season debut of Buffon 55. John Buffon, the nephew of the great Chicago Bears linebacker Doug Buffon, has been hosting a show. This is going to be his sixth season, so it's going to be a fantastic season. His co-host, Alyssa Barbieri, many people know she is the managing editor over at Bears Wire for the USA Today, and she's all over the place. I think she writes more stuff about the Chicago Bears than probably all the combined beat writers put together. So that show is Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. And I also want to mention the Barflight Tailgate Show. If you did not see yesterday's show, then you really missed a laugh-a-thon and great football analysis and debate. Just fantastic. I laughed so much at some of the stuff they were talking about, and we're going to be talking about that more in some future shows this week. And so Chris Watts is in the chat room, and he's one of the members of the Barfly Tailgate Show. But I just wanted to mention them because it's a great way to start your football Sundays. They will be starting at 9 a.m. Central every week, every Sunday. So check them out, have a good laugh, and talk some football with 5 very, very passionate Chicago Bears fans. Now, talking about passion, let me bring in Greg. Greg, how are you, my man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. The Chicago Bears looked incredible Saturday. Sometimes I'm asking you to talk me off the ledge. Talk me off the top of the mountain.
Well, the third team defense let the Brownies back in the game there to make it a little bit interesting. And we had a doink field goal attempt on a long field. It was a long field goal. So, but no, it was a good game. It's what you want. Hey, you got through the preseason undefeated. Hopefully there was no catastrophic injuries. The rookie Robinson had a leg injury. Who the hell knows what that is? Because they don't tell you. If he winds up on IR today or tomorrow, then you know that it was a problem. But somebody had it here in the chat room. Do I got any secret cuts? No, let them do what they want. But I'm going to say one thing because it's an interesting thing. Most cases, and I'm sure it is here right now, the GM has control of the roster. So who makes a team and who doesn't? And the coach has control of who plays. But, and it's a huge but, you don't really want to butt head. Maybe on one guy, you say, I'm going to use my authority on this one, but you never want to force a player on a coach because it'll never work. So especially if the coach is saying, no, I want to keep this guy and the GM wants to keep another guy and you can't find a third position where you can get rid of somebody, it's just not going to work. The coaching staff won't let it work. So it not to be spiteful or anything. It's just the way it is. So I think there's, on whoever the names are going to be, it's going to be a general consensus between the coaching staff and the front office. The one name where I have no idea whether he's going to make this team or not is Schofield.
Yeah, he's a name that has gotten praise and a lot of criticism.
Well, he didn't start off the preseason real well. Let's put it that way. And then, played a backup role the other night. He's a guard. He can play tackle. So the versatility helps. He's played tackle in the league, but he's also on the other side of 30, I think. And are they going to keep a young guy over him? But if you do, you got a lot of young guys on your offensive line. You'd really have your only veteran backup would be Riley Reef. Everybody else is a relatively young player. Do you want to go into the season with that? So I think that's an interesting discussion that they will be having. Ja'Tyre Carter, I don't think played that much. I got to rewatch the game, but I don't think he played that much the other night. And to me, that was telling. That's saying we don't want any more of him on tape. So just in case, because that's a guy we want to slip through and then bring back to the practice squad. And being they got him as late as they did, there's a pretty good chance that would happen. But you still, you gotta see how it shakes out. And the other thing too that's real important, where the roster for next week and the roster for game 2 might be two different things. And the reason being, and we've talked about this several times before, is if you have a vested veteran, that means 4 years or more in the league, he is if he's on the 53-man roster week 1, his salary is guaranteed for the year. You let that guy be on the street for a week and you can cut a side deal with him. And he is, then he's week to week like a rookie is. He doesn't have a guaranteed salary. He's not going to lose any money on a weekly basis, but he doesn't have that guarantee in his back pocket. And a lot of times teams will go out and sign some vets in week 2 that they wanted, but they just didn't want to guarantee the salary because they're going to be backups.
Anyone on the present roster for the Chicago Bears that you see that could potentially happen, that they would be cut, and with the idea of bringing them back in week 2? Like a Dane Cruikshank, perhaps?
He was brought in for a reason. He had some injury situations. This guy's a pretty good player at Tennessee.
I think so.
Okay, he was a very good teams player. And number 2, he was the dime defensive back, which essence was the second linebacker when they went to 6 DBs, and he played really good football. Okay, he played good football Saturday night, his first opportunity to play. Yes. So I personally can't see him going. I think there could be some interesting situations at corner. It wouldn't shock me if 2 guys go on IR and go on IR after the cut down, because if you put a guy on IR today or tomorrow, he is out for the year. Okay. If you have him on your initial 53-man roster through tomorrow, then you put him on IR on Wednesday, then you can bring him back after a minimum of 4 weeks. So guys that didn't practice or play that much, and I'm talking Thomas Graham and Young, it wouldn't shock me if they end up on IR to start the season. The wide receiver on Kilharry, he'll probably be on, depending on the status of that high ankle sprain, he'll probably be on IR. Now, if they think he can play in 2 weeks, he'll be on the 53. But if he's, another 3 weeks, 4 weeks away, then he'll go to IR.
We got a lot of great questions already. And so let's talk, let's entertain some of these questions. We'll continue to talk about Saturday's game. I've got highlights of Justin Fields' 3 touchdown passes. I want to get Greg's comments on that. But let's go to this question first. What do you think about Mario Edwards, given his lack of reps? Is he in danger of perhaps not being favored by this new staff?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. There's a lot of vets that they have purposely not played. They know what they can do. He may be one of them. I went in the beginning of camp thinking that he was going to be alternating at the 3 technique with Jones, and Jones played pretty good the other night when he really got that opportunity. So, and they don't have a pure 3 behind him. Blackson has lost a lot of weight, it looks like, and he has played some 3 during the preseason. He could do it. And then and the name's a statement. What's his name? Cooley?
Yeah, Cooley.
He's played really good. I think he's a wild card.
Yeah.
He has 3 sacks, and he's played in the league for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And you make that team on defense, that says something about that he's a good football player.
Yeah.
But is he, the ideal fit for this scheme? Then we're going to find this all out within 24 to 48 hours because, again, some of these guys could be let loose and then brought back on Wednesday when guys go on IR.
Mm-hmm. Danny Shimon, I know, has predicted that Tonga will be cut and Coley would be kept. What are your feelings about Tonga, the second-year guy? I think he played at BYU. He was drafted last season.
That's a good question. I think he's played pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some, tweets out that he's garbage. I don't know what the hell they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing exactly what the 0 tech. They play a 0 and a 1 in this scheme. So, but it's not a pure nose all the time. He does what he's supposed to do, and he's quick off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's very quick off the ball. What he lacks that you want defensive linemen to have is short arms.
Mm-hmm.
But he's strong. They still got him listed at like 330 something. I guarantee you he's 320, 318, something like that. A lot of these guys are smaller. Like, in fact, I saw there's a website I can go on, and I wanted to look up who played because Carter did play, but he might have played on special teams. I don't recall him being in the game as a regular guard position, but he may have been. I just, I got to go back and watch. And if anybody else saw it, just chime in and leave the note. But I just don't remember seeing him during the games, but he could have been on the special teams part. No, I lost my whole train of thought. See, that's what happens when you get old.
Tell me about it.
You're talking about one thing and you're thinking about saying something else, and then that something else goes way out the freaking window.
I can't do that multitasking, thinking and talking at the same time. So I'm not expecting you to. How about if we entertain another question? Nomad wants to know about Gibson. He played all 4 quarters. And is there something strange about this guy who is potentially a starter or should see significant time? Is there something strange about the fact that in the final preseason game, they had him playing all 4 quarters?
Yeah, but he wasn't playing every down. He was playing in a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, not really. They're going to rotate 4 edge players. I just don't know who the 4th is.
Mm-hmm.
He's, there's Muhammad, there's Quinn, there's Gibson. I don't know who the 4th is. It Robinson? Is it Kamara? One of these guys it's going to be the 4th guy, and then, probably 4 interior guys. And it wouldn't shock me if they had 9 guys,
mm-hmm.
Total between the 2. But again, we'll see.
Your thoughts about the offensive line? Chris wants to know, what do you feel the starting offensive line will be? Do you think it's going to be Braxton Jones at left tackle, Cody White here at the left guard, Lucas Patrick at center, at right guard, Tevin Jenkins, and at right tackle, Larry Borum or Riley Reef? That seems to be the consensus.
Well, Riley Reef played about 12 snaps all preseason. That was at left tackle. I don't think Riley Reef's in the equation,
Okay.
except as a backup. No, I think it's going to be that. It's assuming Patrick can play in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's stepped up his conditioning, and that's been noted by people. And I think I said last week, if he had broke his left thumb, he'd be playing now.
Mm.
But it was his right. He's got to snap with that. So, until they feel comfortable that he can get the ball back, he won't be playing, which brings up another question on the depth, because the name it just hit me. And Dieter Iceland's played center the last couple weeks and hasn't played bad. Mustafer's played well. Both of those guys can play guard. And so Mustafer didn't get, because Patrick got hurt, Mustafer didn't get the reps in the game playing guard, but he's got them in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you keep Iceland and Mustafer to be swing center guards behind Patrick when Patrick's ready to go and Schofield's gone? That's one of the discussions that they're going to be having or already had.
Yeah.
But the other thing, you see a lot of people write and tweet and stuff about guys trying to make plays in the third preseason game to make the team. Guess what? Those decisions were already made. There's been the whole off season, 5 weeks of practice or 4 weeks of practice, 2 games. And then, it's like, unless somebody just absolutely jumped out or somebody got hurt, and so now you got to elevate somebody else because of the injury. Most of those decisions had been made way before Saturday night's game.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before, that typically happens with all NFL teams. There's very few times where there's roster fights being held in that last preseason game. Perhaps, to determine who goes to the practice squad, right?
No, even that, and I've said this, that you look at some of the contracts that these guys signed, rookies signed, and if they had guaranteed money, depending on the amount, if it was $5,000, they're not going to give a damn. But if it's like a portion of the salary, chances are that guy's going to end up on the practice squad because they offset each other.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Detroit looked awful. Oh my gosh. I'm saying that because Don Burr, our resident Lions fan, is in the chat room. And I saw the first half of that Steelers-Lions game. And that was one of the ugliest games. First of all, there was a flag. At one point, there were 5 flags thrown on consecutive plays. It was atrocious. And Mitchell Trubisky looked good for a series or so, but the game was pathetic. Anyway, so off my soapbox there. All right, let's.
That brings up a point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Bears had 15 penalties in 3 preseason games.
Yep, very disciplined, incredible. The way that team and
I know in the first half they had 1, and that was the holding call on Griffin on the long run by Monty, and
right.
That is the only penalty in offense or defense in the first half.
Yeah.
I know there were at least a couple in the second half, and I don't have the stat line in front of me to look at the total penalties, but I think they only had 6 or 7 last week total.
Mm-hmm.
And that in a preseason game, that's incredible numbers.
That is incredible. Yeah, this team looks like it's so well coached. Oil Pan Willie and a couple of my other friends have wanted me to ask you, what do you think about this new coaching system or coaching staff, and how they're getting such immediate results in terms of things like that, discipline and execution and playing hard? Have you ever seen a coaching staff get immediate results? I mean, we're only a small sample size, of course, in preseason games, but it does look very impressive. And it's hard to think of a previous Chicago Bears regime that has gotten such quick results.
It jumps out to me watching the tape and the game is the second effort,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes third effort.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is nobody wants to be called out in the meeting room for a loaf, because that's embarrassing, because your teammates are going to start laughing at you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you just don't want to go through that stuff, even though it's probably not that big a deal. But I just like the offensive lineman, perfect example. And Tevin did it now the third game in a row. He's like driving people through the pile,
mm-hmm.
and trying to, and that's to ensure himself that he's not getting hit with a loaf penalty.
I love it.
He had one bad. I saw one bad play again. That was the first play of the game, and there he actually, his initial contact on that pull, that short pull to the right, was good. He
mm-hmm.
didn't sustain the block.
Jordan has been saying now for a couple of weeks that this coaching staff reminds him of the Lovey Smith staff in many different ways. Do you feel the same way, that there's some similarities in terms of their approach to handling players?
I think this one's a little more disciplined. I mean, I was part of being on that staff, and we had some really good coaches. We had a few. I mean, there was some turnover. There were some that weren't quite as good. I remember, the offensive coordinator we had the first year. What the hell is his name?
The guy from KC?
Shea, Barry Shea. And the day after the season, Lovey just walked into his office and said, Terry, we're 31st in offense. I'm making a change. And that was it. I mean, bye.
I can just hear Lovey with that drawl of his, and so calm.
And very calm and fatherly like.
Yeah, that's great. What about Denzel Mills? Jordan wants to know about him. I know on social media, you and I went back.
Cut it out, Jordan.
If anything, you would inquire about him after a couple of weeks into the season if things get really bad, right?
Number one, he put up some good numbers the other day. The head coach is on record of saying, as far as I'm concerned, he's here.
Yep.
But again, see, that's a situation where, the front office might not like the player as much as the coaching staff, and the guy with the GM title has got control of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
But if the coach really wants the guy, they're going to probably keep the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he ends up anywhere, Carolina called, Matt Rule coached him in college. But I know Scott Fitterer very, very well. We worked together in New York, Scott's first few years in the league before he went to Seattle. And Scott is a very good evaluator. I mean, he's not going to overpay for the guy. He might give, a 7th round pick next year or the year after, but or maybe even a conditional pick,
mm-hmm.
especially because of all the, the bad pub that's been going up. And I saw some cartoon on Twitter saying that, showing Joe Douglas with a kind of like a smirk face and the arrow pointed up because the guy had a good game yesterday. So what? He's playing the frickin' Giants too, who suck. There's no question the guy's got talent. There's some issues there, and I'm not going to get into what they are. And I don't want him on this team. If the front office feels that he can help, then fine.
So an absolute no to Josh Gordon, right?
Oh, yeah, absolute no.
All right. I want to share with you and our followers the first touchdown. We've got the broadcast copy followed by the all 22 and then the end zone camera. And my good friend Oil Pan Willie said that he was really impressed with the separation the Bears wide receivers are getting, something that he rarely saw under the Matt Nagy regime. And as soon as I saw the replay on this touchdown, I thought the same thing in terms of route concepts and separation. This was a thing of beauty. I tweeted out Getsy genius. And so take us through this touchdown. Let me go full frame with that. Just a gorgeous throw by Fields. He just plants that back foot and fires away, doesn't he?
See, now here, I don't know if you can play that back.
Yes, I can.
No, the key to that whole play was, it was?
Well, no.
Equanimous.
Okay, tell me why.
He's right here. I think that's him, right? Play. And then he does watch it. No, that was the inside guy. See, he does that thing where he breaks to the outside and then goes back inside.
Yes.
And he froze this guy.
Right.
He's the corner.
He's the slot.
I'm pointing at the screen and you can't. Nobody can see what the hell I'm pointing at. But see, he froze that guy and that made Griffin like totally wide open.
Yep. I believe JT Snowden looked at this play and said that they were playing a three deep zone. And so the slot receiver, I guess that's Equanimous, really got the number 29 there with his back to the camera, really got him to bite on this play.
He thought it might be an out.
Right.
And he was going to try to jump the route. But in the meantime, tight end's wide open over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And the safety's looking to his left.
Mm-hmm.
So he's reacting late to the play. It was a good design play, but EQ sold the whole play.
Mm.
And he's not going to, and I tweeted that out too, but he's not going to get credit in the media for that. But if he doesn't run that route as good as he does, that touchdown might not happen.
Yep. And the mechanics here from Justin Fields just look fantastic. And the way he rips this ball to the receiver. Gorgeous throw in between those two defenders.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a real tight window. I mean, he was open.
Well,
he could have even let go of the ball a split second earlier. It was there. So,
yeah.
But no, I'm not gonna nitpick. It was a great play. But again, I'll go back. EQ, he'll get praised by the coaches because his route opened things up.
Well, it's funny that you say that about nitpicking because I was thinking the very same thing. I think on 2 of the 3 touchdown passes, Fields probably could have got rid of that ball a nanosecond or more a little sooner. And I know that's not a big deal. The play worked, the touchdown was scored, but we're always looking for perfection, right? So,
but that'll come with experience.
Absolutely.
Because he's seeing the tape too. And the coach is going to be telling him, hey, look at it. You could have, when he's right here, that's when the ball should come out of your hand.
Right. All right, let's go to the second touchdown. Properly labeled.
Play that back because I want to see. Well, no, that was the TV copy, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see it on the all 22.
Coming right up here.
Hell of a route by Pettis.
Mm-hmm.
He fakes the inside, comes back to the corner route. Got very good separation because he had a good fake to the inside. But again, that was a throw that Justin could have got out of his hand right now.
Right. See, that's what I thought too. So
But that'll come, you more experience in the offense, more experience with the receivers. When you look, you see where his head is when you see it from the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Then that, it changes your thinking a little bit because he was looking to his right.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking off. Watch. He's right now he's going left, but he's going to go right in a second. Watch.
Yep.
See, right there. And then he comes back.
Right.
So, he looked off, and that might have helped the EQ or not EQ Pettis open up a little bit because the safety back there, the corner, whoever's covered him, could have been reading ahead of Justin Fields, thinking that he's going to go with the first read.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great decision by Fields because my thought initially was hit Cole Kmet right over the middle. You got him right there. He's probably
but you got a safety there. Play this sort of, let's see how the safety comes up. You'd have to hit him right now.
Yeah.
And because that safety was looking at Kmet, and that could have been a pick.
Yeah.
Or it's not a safety, he was a linebacker.
Right.
Yeah. So he was in good position. He was eyeballing Kmet. He made the right decision. I mean, he got the touchdown. The other one would have been, a 5-yard gain, and there's nothing wrong with a 5-yard gain, but you're going to take the score first.
Danger T had asked a question just before we put that highlight up. What are your thoughts on Dante Pettis? His route running looks good. I recall when the Bears signed him, you said that he was a promising player.
He's got talent. He played pretty good as a rookie and hasn't done anything since. And I don't know the reason why. The coaching staff might have done a lot of research. This guy was a second-round pick and was highly thought of coming out of the University of Washington and just didn't produce. And I'll tell you what, there's a few receivers that have come out of Washington, high picks that didn't produce. So, some of it could be the lack of sophistication within that Washington offense. And so what the receivers are asked to do there versus what they're asked to do at the NFL level is two different things. And it just takes them a while to catch up. Could be his football character, that he didn't put in the work needed. He's had a pretty good camp to date. He can run. I don't know if he can run like he did when he came out of college. He was a sub 4.4 guy. But he's still fast enough. There's no question about that. So he can play on teams as a return guy. He's not going to be your number one returner. He could be your number 2 punt returner. Maybe even number 3 punt returner. I don't know if he's been playing on cover teams. I'd have to go back and watch those because I haven't looked for him. So, he may very well have done it.
I love Jordan's comparison here. A diet version of Olave.
Explain to me what a diet version is.
I would say
because he's bigger than Olave.
But probably has similar skills, but not as fast as Olave is what I'm guessing. So Jordan, give us another message there.
This guy ran like 4.36 or something when he was coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, he could run. And you go back and you look at his college tape, and it's very impressive. I had a second round pick on him. But his, the key, like EQ was a good route runner, but not a great runner when he was at Notre Dame. And I saw some practice tape of him up in Green Bay, and when he was going into and out of his breaks, he was sinking his hips a lot better than he ever did at Notre Dame. And that's one of the little things that you have to do to get open and create separation.
All right, let's take a look at this third touchdown. This is the wide open touchdown to Kmet. On play action, rolling, pump fakes to the running back, wide open. It
had to be a blown coverage there, and you'll see it on the all 22 on the wide angle.
Which is coming right up now. There it is.
where's Komet's right in coming over, right?
Yeah. Komet is.
He's on the left side of the formation.
Oh, yeah.
No, wait a minute. Go play it back. Play it back. No, he wasn't. He was split out on the right. I see. He was in motion.
Yeah.
There he is in motion, and he goes up. Yeah, the corner.
My goodness.
The corner blew that. The corner went with the receiver in the middle, and the safety went with the receiver in the middle and left him wide open.
There's 3 defenders for the Browns guarding one man in the middle of the field in the end zone.
Right. In the meantime, Cole Kmet, the nearest guy to him is right now 10 yards away.
That is amazing.
And that's one of that is a Brown. 10 yards away was the nearest guy when he caught the ball.
Mm-hmm. And the blocking on all of these plays was exemplary. This is where I started thinking, well, maybe he should get rid of that ball, buddy. But maybe he wanted to make sure Cole Kmet was fully turned around to fire the ball to him. Great stuff. And
those are passes that you drop because they're too easy.
Yes, I was dropping it on my mind
it's like, well, you're wide open. There's nobody within 10 yards of it, and you take your eye off it, you drop it.
Yep. I forgot to include that one replay of when Fields was looking downfield, got all the defenders to go to the right on a third down play. And then without looking, he had that no-look pass to Pettis at the sideline to pick up the first down. It was a Patrick Mahomes type play, which Justin Fields is proving that he can do those Mahomes like magic plays. It's just gonna take a little time to get.
He was a pretty good shortstop in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some there's tape of him you can find it on YouTube that shows him working out at it might have been at a like an all-star camp or something, playing shortstop, fielding grounders, getting the ball out of his glove right away. And he can change the angle of his throw. And that's what it is, the baseball experience. Mahomes has that baseball experience too.
Mm-hmm. Seems like more and more quarterbacks are have that baseball experience and use those throwing techniques like the shortstop, the second baseman, that when they turn over double plays, is really helping them. My man Gabriel asked a question: who do you compare Justin Fields to? Do you have a comp on Fields?
No, not really. In all honesty, I like comps sometimes when it just reminds me. But, I go back when I worked for the Giants and George Young said, "Greg, this isn't fucking Hinduism now." He goes, "There's no such thing as reincarnation."
I love it.
H guy's his own guy.
That's a good George Young impersonation. I've heard him on NFL films a number of times. You sound a lot like him. That's good stuff.
Well, hell, I worked with him for a number of years. I just love it. He, because George was, until the later part of his career, was a big, big man.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't want to get up from his desk and walk into another office. He'd just yell from his office. And Harry Humes was the assistant GM at the time, and Harry's office was right next to George. And while George would negotiate the big contracts, Harry did a lot of the smaller ones. Mm-hmm. And there was one thing, I'm walking by the office, and might have been during our February pre-combine meetings or something, because I know it wasn't for the draft, because George said in the meetings for the draft. And all of a sudden you hear this bellowing voice, "Harry, did you get that fucking contract done yet?" The whole building could hear it.
I love it. That is great. Got a question here from Michael. Gregville, they're going to be the CB2. I'd like to see Gordon fill that role, then slide into the slot on third downs. What are your thoughts?
I don't think they're going to overload Gordon as a rookie.
Really?
Now that could be the case, but that means he's got to be. It's two different positions, and I'll say this: you go back and you look at Indianapolis, how they use defensive personnel. They were like 85% in nickel. They very seldom use three linebackers.
Right.
Might even been 90%. It's like Buffalo. Buffalo plays a 4-2-5, and that's pretty much what Indianapolis plays. And you might have 6-7 games during the course of a game, a regular season game. Now they did in the preseason, but during the regular season game, had that Sam linebacker in there. That's why the Sam has got to be a backup really to the inside guys. Be able to play both the Will and the Mike position. So if that's the case, and the nickel in this defense, the way Flus says, what he's being asked to do, he's got to do some blitzes and run support and stuff. If you're going to say this guy's going to be my nickel, then you can't have him working outside and then work him inside. You got to have him staying at one place. And they had the guy they had in Indianapolis last year, I think, went to the Pro Bowl.
Okay. Yeah. What's his name again? I forgot.
I can't think of Moore or something like that.
Somebody in the chat will save us with that one. I want to get your thoughts, pick your brain on this process that is going on right now at Hallis Hall and at 31 other NFL offices. Do they have a big board of all the potential drops? And, if this guy drops, we immediately make a claim. If this guy drops, he's our second choice. Is that how this process works?
Well, you have a board, just like you have a draft board. You have a free agent board or whatever, and it's potential guys. Yeah, I was right, more. Potential list of guys that could be cut. You haven't prioritized. And then you have, veteran names. There's veteran names included in that. And really, you got to have two groups of names separated by veteran and young player and rookies and stuff. So, because who can they bring in for the practice squad? You're only allowed X amount of veteran players on your practice squad. I think it's 4 or something like that. And so, yeah, they're working with a thing, but this is where it can get confusing. There's going to be names that are going to get cut. And, Bears fans are going to say, why aren't they got to put a claim in for him? Well, number one, you could put a claim in for the guy, but there's going to be 7 teams in front of him. Okay, so one of those 7 could do it. The other thing is sometimes you put in multiple claims and you prioritize the claims. Okay, so I want this guy first, this guy second, this guy third. If you get number 1, 2 and 3 are out the door, even though you put claims on them because you only want 1.
Right.
Okay, and you prioritize who you want, and you're allowed to do that at any time during the year, but especially, during this cut down phase. And then the last part is, well, who's he going to replace? And the toughest place to bring in a player, at least in the short term, is wide receiver. Because, an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, except for a little bit of terminology, the guy's probably done sometime in his past something similar to what they're doing here on the offensive line and the defensive line. So it's not as hard to get a guy up to speed. You could pick up a guy on waivers this week at one of those 2 areas, and he'd be ready to go week 1. Wide receiver is a different story. It could take him 2 to 3 weeks to catch on and be comfortable. And that doesn't surprise me there. Who put up that Bears cut? You did?
Yeah, I just put that up. Came through on Twitter. The Bears have cut wide receiver Kevin Shaw, the recently acquired interior offensive lineman Corey Dublin, and defensive back John Alexander. Poor John, it's the second time he's been cut in the preseason.
Yeah, no, none of those.
No
You could blow on Kevin Shaw and he'd fall over. he only weighs about $1.50, and real tiny guy.
Mm-hmm.
He can run though, and that's why he was signed. He's a sub 4.4 guy.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think. No man says Alexander surprise cut. No, they only brought him back because he understood the defense and they had guys hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He was already cut once before. I'll tell you the one that surprised me, and not surprised me that he got cut, but how they did it is the one guy they cut yesterday for a non-football illness.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that done on Sunday?
Mm.
Is there something there that they didn't even want him on the building in the building on Monday with the other players?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm making a note here because I wanted to ask you about what happened with injuries. What do you make of this Roquan Smith situation? Do you really believe that he felt a little tight, or do you believe, like some fans are saying, nah, he decided to make a business decision and not play?
That's the first thing I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who's to say?
Sure.
And you know what? That's one thing you could, if you say you're tight,
mm-hmm.
there isn't a doctor in the world that can disprove you.
Yeah, that's right. And Eberflus was asked about that after the game. He says, whose decision was it? And his response is, we all decided together. So if this was something that was debated and they tried to encourage Roquan to get out there, Eberflus did a good job in terms of disguising that. It seemed like everything was amicable. So the other question that I have for you is that non-Bears related, so I hate to skip to it, but I want to make sure I get your thoughts on this because I know
I want to go back to something because
go ahead.
You put the cuts on there and then I didn't finish what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it takes a receiver a few weeks at least to get up to speed, to feel comfortable, to be able to play fast within the system. So are you going to bring in a receiver who is not totally comfortable with this kind of system or never played in this system, doesn't know the terminology? Because basically you're giving your receivers a short number going into the opening game if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even though people want one, and if the right one is there, I'm sure they're gonna put in a claim, and hopefully they'll get them. The thing is, with the claims, it's guys less than 4 years in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with a vested vet, theoretically he can sign. Okay, if he's cut at the waiver wire comes out at 3:00 in the afternoon tomorrow. If a vested vet is, and technically, if he puts on Twitter that he's cut, they've released, Joe Schmo, the Buffalo Bills have released me, or his agent puts it out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it. You don't have to wait for the waiver period or anything. I can call him right away. Get a contract done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and then you you literally sign the contract the next day, and then you cut somebody else.
Okay.
So it's two different. It works different ways. You got to wait till waivers come out on Wednesday at noon,
mm-hmm.
and the league calls you right away, and they're going to say, if they're going to tell you if you lost somebody, or if any of the claims you put in you got.
Okay.
So you're going to know it right away, and then you can. They say you got to. There's a in the waiver wire that's come out the last few days. There's in red typing, because I get a copy of the waiver wire every day.
Okay.
It said you can't sign guys to the practice squad until the waiver wire comes out the next, that day. So Wednesday afternoon. And waiver wire is not going to come out until 2, maybe 3 with the actually it's 12 o'clock Eastern time, so it's 11 o'clock here. But the league calls you right away and tells you every team in the league, as soon as they get that phone call, is signing their practice squad guys.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as they get the like, hey, he's cleared waivers, he's good to go, and he's eligible for your practice squad, they do it right away. If you waited for the waiver wire, you'd be waiting until 4 in the afternoon before you got that done.
Yep. I once heard the expression, I forgot who said it, but that general managers, player personnel people at this point of the season, most of them have fallen in love with the people on their roster, and they are highly unlikely to pick up a wide receiver who's been dropped by another team to take over for a wide receiver on your squad, because that wide receiver on your squad, you picked them up, you signed them, he's learned your offense. Why bring in a total stranger to try to get him up to speed with the season underway? So
there's some truth to that. The exception being if you've got a history with the guy that's on the street.
That would make a lot of sense. Absolutely. So if Getsy, knows the receiver and vouches for him, then that's a different story.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. I wanted to ask you about this disturbing situation. I know you're a big fan of the Buffalo Bills. The highly, highly regarded punter, Matt Orzari, has
Orazia, I think.
Orazia, I'm sorry, I apologize. Orazia has been accused of a heinous sexual act. He's being sued by a woman along with some other guys. And the issue is, did the NFL drop the ball here? Because apparently, according to NFL.com and this morning's show, Good Morning America, there was news that a lot of the teams prior to the draft were aware of these allegations against him.
Okay, let me tell you what I know. And
excellent.
First of all, there's never charges filed.
Right.
Ever. And this incident happened well over a year ago. So there was nothing legal done until the other day when the lawsuit was filed. And the lawsuit is a civil suit, similar to what happened with Deshaun Watson, and not a criminal suit. So now chances of getting money in a civil suit are easier than it is of getting a conviction in a criminal trial. But at the same time, and I'm not sticking up here for Orazia or whoever the other two guys are, and their names, they're not playing in the NFL, so their names haven't been mentioned. If when you read some of the stuff in the civil suit, why the hell wasn't an arrest made? If in fact that is accurate stuff.
Right.
Okay. Now, there's a couple things that are very close to me that were similar, and so I'm not going to talk about it on here, but and again, I don't want to get hit by people that I'm sticking up for a predator or something. I'm not. I think you got to make sure, what's the truth? This country's been based on you're innocent until proven guilty. There's a lot of allegations that, and I'm just saying, he isn't guilty of anything. He hasn't been charged of anything, and he might not innocent in anything. We just don't know. You got to let the process play out. And something did happen. There's no question. He has admitted to that. But I just find it weird that, after reading some of the stuff on in the civil suit, that if that in fact happened the way it happened, why wasn't there an arrest? The Bills claim they did not know anything until the last month.
Yeah, late July.
I believe that because again, there's no arrest. Now, one guy I was talking to said, well, there was talk about it on campus. Well, talk about the event, yes. But again, go back to the legality part of no criminal action. Something happened at a party, and something happens at a lot of parties.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the law was broken. And I'm just trying to play in the middle here.
Sure.
And I'm not taking sides at all. For his sake, I guess I don't know if I'm saying this the right way. The allegations, he's losing in a career over this, so the allegations better be right.
Mm-hmm.
Because what the hell is he going to do if they turn out not to be?
Counter sue is what his rights would allow him to do.
Yeah, but he still doesn't have a job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, who's paying for that, right? So yeah, it's always an unpleasant thing when it happens, and not
you know what happens? Something like that happens. It's like between the media and fans, you're already machine gunned to death before any, just on the allegation.
Mm-hmm.
When Doug Dyer says, "Let me say, you can't say there's no criminal charges and wonder why there's no arrest." You're answering your own question. No, I'm not. I'm saying if indeed what is stated in the civil suit actually happened, why wasn't there an arrest? I'm not answering my own question. I'm asking a question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what he is trying to say is probably there wasn't a crime committed. So perhaps that's what he's saying.
Well, if there wasn't a crime committed, what's all the I'm just playing devil's advocate. What's all the hubbub about?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other girl was 17, and again, did they know she was 17?
That has been reported. I saw that. I heard it on NFL Good Morning today that it was a 17-year-old.
Right. I that when it came out, it said she was a 17-year-old girl. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
But if a girl says she's 18 and she's not 18, are you in fact breaking the law? I don't know the answer to that.
Right. Well, and again, we don't know all of the details, so we'll table discussions on that. But it is unfortunately the point that was made on the Good Morning Football. One of the co-hosts said, if the NFL was aware of this prior to the draft, shouldn't they have sent a memo to all 32 teams that there have been allegations against this particular player? Wouldn't that make it better for everyone?
In most cases, they usually do.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, what allegations? There was never an arrest.
But there was a civil suit already.
But the civil suit didn't take place. The civil suit wasn't filed until last week.
Yeah. I think what happened is that the lawyer for this woman contacted the NFL saying, we have information regarding an allegation against one of the prospects.
But did they do that before the draft?
I believe that is the case. So we'll do some more research on that, and if it bears more discussion, we will do so. We certainly want
to get back to the Bills. They did, in my opinion, absolutely the right thing, and because they don't know the answers,
right?
And now it becomes, if they keep the player, it's a distraction,
mm-hmm.
and they're a team that wants to get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they've gotten they've signed a few players, he being one of them, that they thought could help them achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, to keep him around would have just caused a distraction that the team as a whole just doesn't need.
Mm-hmm. Jordan says, let's be clear, Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott and Leslie Frazier are about as good as it gets in this league, high-quality people. I don't think that's anyone here is going to argue that. All right, let's answer some questions before we get you out of here. I know you got an appointment coming up, so we'll get through these as quickly as possible. Free Palestine wanted to know how you got into scouting. We've talked about that before. Let's table that for a further discussion on the business of scouting at another time. Greg, I know the answer to this one. Greg, you do not play fantasy football.
I don't even know how it works.
I'm surprised you don't know how it works.
I don't have a freaking clue. But I got a friend of mine lives behind me. He's an attorney who plays at like 3 leagues. And he's always calling. I go, John, I don't know.
Oh, man, 3 leagues is a lot. I used to be in 4 or 5, and it was like, this is ridiculous. I'm rooting against myself.
My stepson used to call me. Getting ready for the draft. Should I take this? I don't know. I have no idea how, because I don't want to know. You know why? Because of the first word, fantasy. I care about reality. And reality is what's happening on the field.
I love it.
And I got to say this too, because there's money involved. When I was working in the league, you couldn't be involved in fantasy football.
Oh, yeah. It's different now.
So that had a little bit to do with it too.
Jay Capone, the Don, wants to know, what do you think about defensive back Deontay Harris? He was added in the middle of camp. Right. I like him on the team, and I agree with the Don. You like him?
There's a few corners there, that probably 3 that have a shot at one spot. When you look at it, and one is Lamar Jackson, this guy, and then the guy who I never really heard of, and he's played in the league a few years. We're in number 39. He made some plays the other night.
Yeah.
Starts with an S, and I never heard of the guy. I mean, it's like
Troman.
And so it's, I think, a bunch of spots are pretty much locked up, and that you got 3 vying for one. Who was it? I think Big Z had a thing where he had Duke Shelley making the team. God, I hope not.
You've never been a fan of
Never. I do not like short corners.
That's funny.
Not this league.
All right. Let's go to Nomad. Says now would be the time if they ever wanted to bring in a new wide receiver a couple of weeks to get up to speed. I think that was the question that you wanted me to share. It's not really a question, but isn't this the time to bring in a guy as opposed to?
No, I just talked about that 5 minutes ago. Really, I said that's one position where it's difficult because it takes a while to get up to speed unless you have had experience within the system. Now, if you've got experience with, and it doesn't necessarily say with Green Bay, but San Francisco, Green Bay, the people that use that same system, the Rams, terminology is pretty much the same, where you can get up to speed and be ready to play right away. But let's say it's the Jets, just to piss off Jordan a little bit. That's different animal. So he's taking a roster spot and he's not ready to step on the field.
All right, got another one for you here. Jordan, what does Greg think of Trey Lance? How did he write him up last year? Thoughts on Bears?
It was last year. Personally, I see the talent. I had a conversation that spring. So a few months before the draft. And the conversation was with Daniel Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why is everybody falling in love with this guy? And he said, it's because what he can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, okay, I get that. But to take him in the top 10, that doesn't make sense to me. And I'll tell you what, played one freaking game and didn't play good his final year at North Dakota State. And, I grew up in an era where you wanted a quarterback to have 800-900 throws on his resume.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of Parcells' things. And this guy, first of all, they're a run first team, not a pass first team. He did lead them to a national championship the year before, but then COVID hit and he plays one game and very, very average in that game. He was like 11 out of 20. I don't even think he threw for 200 yards. So is the arm talent there? Yeah. Is the size and speed and athleticism there? Yeah. But don't forget, this guy goes, this is that baffles me. This guy's the third quarterback drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in love with the guy who went to the Jets. I thought he was a figment of people's imagination, because level of comp. Who the hell did BYU play?
Yeah.
And then a guy like Justin Fields totally outplays Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs. It wasn't even close when they played each other in the same game. And, puts up a big resume at Ohio State, competes for a national championship, puts up excellent numbers, and he goes fourth overall of the quarterbacks. And then you got a guy who played a rinky-dink schedule at BYU. They might have had one or two tough games, and he looked shitty in a couple of them too. And then Lance, who plays one game. I don't get that. That's not how I was brought up. I know that they're looking at traits only, but experience counts. You look at the Jets guy, and the year before he stunk. He was way low rated going into the season. And then jumped up. But, they played a lot of little sisters of the poor. So, and last year when you watch the Jets, he still looked like they were playing for playing against 4 of the little sisters of the poor. Come on.
Oh my gosh. They gave up 3 first rounders and a third for Trey Lance. Holy moly. That is unbelievable for a guy without that experience. Man, that doesn't make sense to me either. All right, let me get a couple more in here.
And I'm not saying he's not going to turn out to be a hell of a quarterback, but he sure didn't look like it in preseason.
Yeah, it's not. He's been, and some of
the. I'm going to say right now, Bears are going to win that opener.
Ooh,
if it was on the road, it might be a different story. But right here, they're going to win.
109. That's my.
Flus's defense is going to do some stuff to confuse the hell out of that kid.
My buddy Oil Pan Willie was telling me he's a little bit worried about the Bears pass rush. He hasn't seen a lot of pressure, and of course, it's preseason. What are your thoughts? Talk him off the ledge.
Well, Quinn really hasn't played. He's your best pass rusher. When you put him in there, you got to count for him, and that helps the other guys. No, they'll be fine, and they'll use Roquan a little bit, just like Shaq Leonard was used with the Colts last year. This is not a defense where Flus likes to blitz a lot, but he will on occasion. I'll tell you, they had a little wrinkle in the defense, and I saw when it happened. Then I saw Jordan mentioned it on Twitter, but right when I saw it, I said, "Oh, I liked it." During the game, they had Jones drop into the middle zone.
Yeah, I saw that
from the 3 technique, and he takes a step upfield and then goes back. And I said, I like that little wrinkle. It's all done purposely, just to put it on tape to say, look what we can do. Yeah. And now you got to be prepared for it.
Love it. Love it. All right. JoJo has a question here. Is Greg still active scouting all NFL rosters for available talent? Would he contact anyone in the Bears front office if necessary to inform them of a player?
No, I wouldn't contact anybody in their office because they got people they're paying for that. There's a few rosters that I look at closely, but 32, no. I am doing work for next year's draft for an agency. And God, I've already written up 125 guys, maybe.
Wow.
Based strictly on what they did in 2021.
Is that for the Shrine?
No, I'm doing that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow, you're
the two things those things work together, because if I'm doing it for one, I'm doing it for the other.
What a great group of people advising the East-West Shrine game. Holy cow. Look at that. Mark May, Bucky Brooks, Will Shields, Dane Brugler, Amy Trask, and Scott, I'm going to mispronounce his last name. 22 years in the NFL. And Mark May, of course. Great team. You guys have meetings? You have Zoom meetings or something like that? Or everybody works in
Eric sends out a email once a week with stuff, and then if you got any ideas, you throw the ideas back. He'll have some. We haven't had them yet, but there'll be some Zoom calls. We're all going to be out there for the game. Probably talk to the players.
I love Nomad's comment here that you work Secret Service for the Bears and you're sworn.
No, he said secret sauce.
Oh, secret sauce. I misread that. All right, last question, and we'll get you out of here. Greg, what player or players hit the hardest that you have ever seen? I'm going to guess you're going to say Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, that's probably, put it this, most explosive hitter.
Man, scary. He was a scary man.
I might have told it on here. I don't know. And actually, I did not see it happen because I wasn't with the Giants then. It was a year before. But it's on tape, so I've seen it. But it was in a practice. And it was really one of the first live practices where they had the linebackers pass rushing against the running backs, for the running backs to, get better with their pass blocking technique. So LT goes against, and I just had the name, I can't think of it now. You play Rob, and I can't think of the last name now. And he played at Miami of Ohio, and he was probably played 10 years in the league. Good player. So he sets the block LT, and LT just jumps right over him. And the guy looks at LT and goes, "Rookie, don't ever do that again. Embarrass me like that again." LT just goes, "Fuck you, block me."
I love it.
Rob Carpenter.
Okay, Carpenter. I remember him.
Yeah, he played a long time. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good, very good player.
But LT, like first day of real live stuff, made a fool out of him.
Love it. A lot of people are mentioning Wilbur Marshall of the Chicago Bears on that hit list. Wilbur really delivered.
Wilbur, not a very big guy either. Wilbur would still fit in today's game where you're playing with smaller linebackers because he wasn't a big guy to begin with. Either was Mike Singletary.
Yeah, amazing. Dick Butkus probably wouldn't fit into today's game.
In fact, that whole linebacking crew there with Otis and all of them would play in today's game had, if they were in their prime, like they were in 85, 86.
All right, Greg, I know you've got another appointment. You're doing a radio hit in about 40 minutes. You want to let people know what station that is, or?
Well, he does it later. He's just recording it.
Okay, all right. So you'll tweet that out when you can, and I will let people know that tonight the Double A team is making their final show here at the Barroom Network. They're going to either move to audio podcast only, or they'll announce what they're going to probably do. But it's been a great show that's run for several months here with two great guys, Ken Fang and Stephen Nagishi. That is tonight at 6:30. They have three fantastic guests, so don't miss that show. And then we've got a special announcement as to who is going to take over that time slot. We'll save that for announcement for a little later. And then tomorrow it's Dan and Aldo Bear Their Souls. We've got some really good guests planned for tomorrow. We're just waiting for final confirmation. So
and we're doing a show Friday.
And we are doing a show Fridays because on Friday we will have all of the roster cuts. We will know who has been picked up and so forth. So we'll have a pretty good idea of what this final roster is going to look like.
Well, I don't use that word final.
Never use that word final.
Only because after game one, there's going to be changes. This might be the game one roster.
Right.
Okay. And even because there's still another week to go, even that's not a lock, but it's probably 95%. But we'll know who got cut, who's on the practice squad, who got put down on IR, if any, and, we can go from there.
There you go. It's going to be fun. This is the place to follow all season long, the Barroom Network, and make sure you watch some of the past episodes of GTF. If you want to watch them on YouTube, we've got a playlist there. Just look for Gabriel Talks Football, and you can access all of the previous episodes of GTF. So with that, I will let you all go and tell you to let your friends know about what we're doing here. Take care, everybody.
See you later. Thanks.